Welcome to Can Angels Fly. I'm Nancy, and today we're here to discuss Home Sweet Home. Fourth house matters. The fourth house in astrology is the house of Cancer and is ruled by the moon. So let's dive into it deep so that we truly understand what the fourth house is all about and how it really impacts an individual's life. Now, I'm just going to stop here and let y'all know that it's been very difficult for me to communicate. And so I'm trying to really take my time. And I want to have this discussion with you in a way that I can be relaxed. I really want to learn how to be relaxed when we have our discussions. And remember, whenever I have discussions, especially those that have to do with astrological lineups or aspects or houses, it is interactive. It requires you to fill in the blanks. All right, let's begin with the fourth house. Home sweet home. Before I begin, I'd like to reflect upon nursery rhyme that has a lot to do with the fourth house and your home sweet home. And that nursery rhyme, I believe, was called The Three Little Pigs. What was the story of the three little pigs about? Well, just that. Three little pigs. They finally grew up. It was time for them to get their own place. So they went out into the world and each built their own place. One built their house with a straw, the next with wood, and the final one built his with brick. As life would have it, life came knocking at their door in the form of a wolf. And the story, it says that the wolf went to the first little pig's house made of straw, and he huffed and puffed and blew the pig's house down. In some versions, he ate the pig. In other versions, that pig ran to his sibling's house made of wood. As life would have it, life came to the second little pig's house in the form of a wolf, and that wolf huffed and puffed, but couldn't blow that little pig's house down. But he kept huffing and puffing and persevering till finally he blew that little pig's house down. In one version, the wolf ate the pig. In another version, those two little pigs ran off to the third sibling's house. As life would have it, life came to the doorway, to the doorstep of the third little pig in the form of a wolf. And that wolf huffed. And he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he just kept huffing and puffing. But this time, that wolf couldn't blow that little pig's house down. So in one version, only two little pigs got up. Not got up, got ate up, got ate up. And in another version, all three little pigs were safe in the sibling's home that had built his home of brick. And the poor little wolf, he wore himself out and went somewhere off into the forest to mess with some other little nature creature. Anyway, on to the fourth house. What does the fourth house represent? The fourth house represents home, emotional attachments, the emotional heart, your level of emotional security, your level of emotional stability overall. It represents family, the family composition, and the quality of that family. We'll call it the nuclear family for this video. The fourth house also represents comfort, your true level of comfort. Is it strong or is it weak? It also represents the mother and the wife. As we talk about the mother and the wife, we're going to look at the ruling planet, which is the moon, which represents what? The mother and the wife. It also represents a person's emotional state at any given time, whether that person is angry, sad, moody, fearful, happy, joyful, or at peace. The fourth house is the house of Cancer. And Cancer is a cardinal sign. So what does a cardinal sign mean? It means getting something started. And well, in this case, are we getting started in the fourth house? Well, we're getting started with developing the state of the heart, the state of the emotional heart, the state of the home, the state of security, stability, family, comfort, etc., etc. Now, collectively, fourth house Cancer ruled by the moon means that at any given time, a person's emotional state at any given time is determined by the quality of their nuclear family, the home, all those things that I mentioned. The home, the heart, the emotional heart, security, stability, comfort, family, the dynamics within a family, the mother, the wife. That's what I mean when I say at any given time, an individual's emotional state is determined by the quality of their nuclear family. Okay. Give me a minute. I'm going to turn the page and try to take the time and relax and enjoy this interpretation of the fourth house. Now, in the astrological wheel, whether it is a natal chart or a transit chart, the fourth house has a relationship to every other house on that wheel. And that relationship never changes. There are houses that are 30 degrees from the fourth house, saying that it's complementary, it's easy. Then there's the 60-degree houses that are set 60 degrees away from that fourth house, and it talks about a little more ease or comfort and complementary, being able to work together. And then it's the 120 degrees, the planets that are set 120 degrees away from the fourth house. That talks about, oh yeah, this makes it real easy. It's highly compatible, big room for opportunity. And then on the other side, on the darker side of things, there are houses that are 90 degrees. We're talking about it's always this squaring or this challenge that exists. And it's also houses that sit 150 degrees from the fourth house. And that talks about, God dang, it's always a challenge. It's always a fight. It's always a battle. It's always a struggle. And then that there is the opposing or opposite planet. The opposite planet of the fourth house is the 10th house of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. But we'll come to that later. Now, let's begin to talk about the relationship the fourth house has with other houses within the chart. Let's start with the fourth house relationship to the third house. What does the third house represent? It represents your small social circle, your siblings, your aunts, your cousins, people from your neighborhood or community, whoever makes up your small social network. Based on the state, on a person's emotional state, that depends on the state of their nuclear family, defines the state of an individual's relationship with these different people within their small social network. Their siblings, their aunts, their cousins, the people from the neighborhood or community. How do you get along with them? It's based on a person's current emotional state that has been developed through their interaction or the quality of the nuclear family. Another agreeable planet with the fourth house is the fifth house. And the fifth house is an individual's fabulous self-expression. What one is emotionally compelled to create in life, based on how you feel. Motivate you to create certain things in your life. I'm going to read. If you have a positive, loving, and supportive, nourishing nuclear family or immediate surroundings, remember it represents your siblings, your aunts, uncles, cousins, people from your neighborhood or community. Community, we talking about your mom, your wife, your family, those kind of things. If you have a loving, supportive, and nurturing environment, then an individual is most likely going to be what? Emotionally stable and feel secure and be at peace. They'll be happy or content. And therefore, their actions reflect this level of comfort and security. So what I mean, their actions reflect their level of comfort and security. We're dealing with the fifth house, your fabulous self-expression. If you are content or happy, everything that you do will radiate that. You'll choose to or be inspired to do things that help support your emotional happiness and stability. But there are those that come from families that are negative, emotionally demanding, and manipulative. Yeah, this is their immediate environment. And so this individual most likely is going to be emotionally unstable, draining, those type of things. And this individual will probably be defensive, very defensive, and very manipulative in nature. And when I talk about them being defensive, the person that comes from basically a dysfunctional environment, they're being defensive because they are truly trying to protect themselves from any further damage or sadness, depression, worries, or fears. Now, this is how the fourth house interacts or relates to the third and the fifth house. But let's go on, because there are other houses that the fourth house has a really strong, supportive relationship with. And those houses are the second house of Taurus, ruled by Venus, and the sixth house of Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Let's see how the state or quality of your fourth house affects these other houses in astrology. Let's start with the second house. Now, as I mentioned, the second house is the house of Taurus, and it is ruled by Venus. What does the second house represent? It represents your family lineage. That's that which you have, or that which you have come to possess, or will eventually come to possess. It is those things that affect your level of comfort and security in the world. It's how we determine if we're actually living a good life or not. Now, question. What would a person benefit from coming from or having a stable, loving, supportive family? Like I said, this is an interactive interpretation. You fill in the blank. Now, on the other hand, what would a person benefit if they come from a dysfunctional nuclear family? One that is manipulative, emotionally demanding, and abusive overall. Fill in the blank. This is an interactive interpretation. Well, let's go ahead and look at the sixth house. Sixth house. The sixth house is another house that has a supportive energy in relationship to the fourth house. What does the sixth house represent? The sixth house is how you choose to use your energy every day. Your agenda. It's your regimen, your daily regimen. Now, those activities are subjected to change based on what you need to do to stabilize or sustain the state of your fourth house. How do we know that your regimen is liable to change? Well, let's go back to the sixth house. It's the house of Virgo. And Virgo is a mutable sign, changeable. It is ruled by Mercury, information, communication, ideas, plans, thoughts, those kind of things. So we know, based on the state, your current emotional state, as defined by or influenced by your nuclear family, your immediate surroundings, determines what you'll do day to day. Now, an example of a task you may make part of your daily routine or not is fitness, health. Now, if you come from a family that's loving and supportive and nurturing and kind, real positive, immediate environment, you would be more likely to engage in a health regimen. Eating healthy, maybe jogging, going to the gym. Why is that? Because life is good. You're happy. So we know that to eat healthy, to exercise, etc., could result in longevity, a longer life. A longer life to be happy and emotionally fulfilled. But on the other hand, if you come from a house or a family or immediate surroundings that is negative, that the people are manipulative, emotionally demanding, they are draining you, you may not be likely to go jogging. You may just not have the energy. You might not go to the gym. You might not eat healthy. You might find yourself stress eating. And why is this? Well, it's the exact same or the exact opposite of the person that will choose to eat healthy. Like, heck, for what? Why am I trying to extend my life when it's miserable? So, we've dealt with 4 of the houses that have a very supportive nature of the 4th house. Depending on where an individual is emotionally right here, right now, affects their 3rd house, their siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, people from their neighborhood or community. Those people they frequent. It also is directly affected by or influenced with the 5th house. Influences or affects the 5th house of your fabulous self-expression. That says if you feel good, then you interact with others in a more positive, wholesome manner. If you feel good, then you go out and you begin to create or make or bring things into existence. You are inspired by that positive energy. But on the other hand, if you are a person that is in a state of misery because of your nuclear family, your immediate surroundings, that your interaction in that third house, those siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, people from your neighborhood or community, whoever makes up your small social circle, can also be a place of strife. When a person is under such a negative influence in their fourth house, it does directly affect their fifth house, their fabulous self-expression. Just how fabulous can you be when you're miserable? How inspiring is that? Well, that fourth house also affects or influences the second house. And the second house talks about what you have, what you possess. Am I jumping ahead? I'm going to slow down because I want to get it right. Did I talk about the second house? I think I did. Yeah, I did. Okay. Let me continue. The fourth house, as we discussed, directly affects the second house, the quality of the second house. Because the second house talks about your lineage, remember? What you have or what you will end up possessing that brings you comfort and security and stability. If you come from a family that is positive, then they are investing in you or giving you positivity, support. And you can really work with that. You can end up bringing some real life security and stability into your home, into your being. But if you come from a family that has a lot of strife, and therefore your emotional nature has been destabilized, your family has a consuming nature. That's what they have given you. And you too will possess that consuming, manipulative nature. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about the final two houses that have a very supportive, highly supportive relationship with the fourth house, and how the fourth house directly influences them. And they are the eighth house of Scorpio, ruled by Mars, and the 12th house, the house of Pisces. And I'm going to say it has three rulers. I say it's Jupiter, the planet of expansion. It has Pluto, the transformative planet. And it also has Neptune, cloudiness, deception, delusion. I don't think we'll go so deep as those three rulers, but it has a lot going on when we start talking about the 12th house. So let's deal first with the 8th house. The 8th house, if I'm not mistaken, I should have checked it. Like I said, it's the house of Scorpio. And I want to say that it is fixed. Oh, I don't have my notes. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about individuals overlapping emotional state over time through all the family interactions and experiences, the way they felt. Now we're looking at both potential individuals. The one that continues to have the positive interactions with their family and their immediate surroundings. And we're also looking at the other one who continues to have negative interactions with their family and the narcissist and the manipulators and the liars or whatever. We're looking at both of them. Over time, that emotional experience directly affects and influences a person on a very deep level. Very deep level. I'm talking about the depths of the ocean level. Moving, therefore, into their psychological state. How's it affected? For an individual that came from or is from or dealing with a family, their nuclear family, their immediate surroundings, that is loving, that is compassionate, caring and supportive, deep down, they feel secure, they feel stable, they feel loved. But when you come from a family full of strife, and it never ends, it never stops, it gets down in there, down inside of an individual, down in their psyche, and it affects their psychological state. And it is a place of many worries, insecurities, the development of manipulative nature, one of hatred and one of anger. Let's see. I almost missed this. Now, whether that individual's psychological state ends up being what we call healthy, or if it becomes negative and toxic. This is the point where a person develops a fixed emotional response to situations, circumstances, and people. Watch out now. That means how they feeling, truly feeling, ain't going nowhere. That means soon and very soon, it's about to play out. But we gonna come back to that. All right, back to that. As I mentioned, the other house that is that doesn't make any sense. Hold on, I have to check. Yeah, I was dealing with the 8th house there. Yeah, okay. Okay. I didn't give you the examples. So let's finish up with the 8th house. And now we're talking about a person's emotional depth. We're talking about beginning to talk about a person's psychological state and how it has an impact or influence upon their life. And all this is due to the state or quality of their 4th house. An example is a person that comes from positive, supporting, and loving family is most likely to respond from a place of emotional stability and a state of emotional security. And that will permit them the capability, the capacity to emotionally be involved, to be emotionally vulnerable at times, and to ultimately have the capacity to emotionally invest in another and commit. But on the other hand, if a person comes from a negative, strife-filled, manipulative family, most likely they will respond to another from a place of feeling vulnerable, insecurity, fear, and defensiveness, ultimately resulting in abuse, secretiveness, power struggles with the other, manipulation, and so much more. Well, I guess we can move on, I think, from the 8th house for right now. And let's talk about the 12th house. Remember the 12th house of Pisces with the three ruling planets, Jupiter, Pluto, and Neptune. You know, this house is another house that the fourth house directly receives support from. Very strong support. So let's talk about what the 12th house represents in astrology. What it represents is the overall influence of your life experiences upon your emotional state and how that state of being inside pours out and manifests into your world. Okay. Well, let's use some examples to get a clear understanding of how the fourth house is supported by the 12th house. If an individual comes from that stable family background, they have an inner being that will most likely be able to allow them to tap into their hidden talents and abilities. They will have a sweeter and more instructive dreams. They would get to travel abroad. And why is that? Because they are capable of negotiating with others and collaborating. But we're going to come back to that. They would be more likely to be compassionate and charitable to others as well as to themselves. See, that person comes from a stable fourth home that's loving and supportive. I mean, cheerleaders for that individual. That person usually is very emotionally stable. And overall, through all the life experiences that they go through, whether they're good and bad, they still have this foundation in which to step off from. And that foundation is emotional security. So when they go out into the world, and they usually manifest into their lives, into their worlds, a more positive outcome, such as being compassionate and being charitable, not only to themselves, but to others. But then on the other hand, we have those that come from very unstable families. You know, they manipulative. They come from narcissists. They come from abusive homes, whatever the case may be. It is a negatively influenced their fourth house, their current emotional state. And it stayed like that so long till it affected the psyche. So they act a certain way. A person like this, most likely through the 12th house, would end up manifesting some or many of the negative attributes of the 12th house, the house of undoing. They could end up in jail, prison, mental institutions. It could lead them to be isolated or to alienate themselves from others. Some might be merely daydreamers, but unable to act or to bring positive results until their reality. While others may escape through drugs and alcohol. This is how the fourth house is supported by the 12th house. Now I know it's a question like, it's supportive. Yeah, it really is. Whenever you hear it says, oh, that's supportive, or it helps that planet, or whatever the case may be, or that house, it's because whatever state that house is in, you know, Like I said, the fourth house can be, I'm just going to use one example, can be dysfunctional. That's the state of the house. So the houses that are going to support it are going to support the dysfunction, you know? So a 12th house is supporting a dysfunctional fourth house. It's going to give dysfunctional outcomes. Outcomes of a doing. Outcomes of going to jail. Outcomes of going to insane asylums, you know? But I'm going to use the other one now. If a person has a healthy emotional state, a healthy fourth house, that 12th house is going to support that healthy fourth house. And it's going to permit and only permit more positive outcomes of the 12th house. Which can be what? 12th house is a hard house. But it can lead to psychic abilities. It can lead to an increased imagination. Tapping into the unknown. Seeing visions. You know, that kind of thing. Fighting your hidden talents. Charity. That kind of thing. But I'm not going to stop now. Because we're dealing with the fourth house. Home sweet home. Now that we've talked about all the houses that support the fourth house in whatever state it is, now let's talk about the houses that have a problem with the fourth house or is challenging the fourth house. Excuse me. The first house that challenges the fourth house is the first house. The first house represents your facade, your forward movement, you know, is your step up, your next step forward is how you present yourself. Now, how does a challenge exist here? Number one, the first house is the house of Aries, and Aries is ruled by Mars. And Aries is a cardinal sign, getting things started. Getting what started? Well, presenting who you really are. So if you are a stable person, that's what you're presenting. If you are emotionally unstable, then that's what you are presenting. It's not only that you are presenting your internal emotional self outward. It's also that you are motivated by it. If you happy, go lucky, come from a good old family background, then you're motivated by it. If you come from a family that is dysfunctional and it's caused you to be dysfunctional, then guess what? You're motivated by it. And so it causes an issue because, let me read the example. At this point, when we start talking about your forward movement and you'll be motivated by your inner emotional state and your true psychological state, it becomes this moment of awakening, enlightenment, hopefully, about who you are, especially in relation to others. This is where the challenge really is. Because as long as we're in the safety, fourth house, the safety of our immediate, intimate, nuclear family, however it is, whatever the state of it is, it's your comfort zone. That's all you know. You're secure there. Whether you're happy, go lucky, or dysfunctional, you know no different. The time comes when that state is challenged. And it is challenged because now you got to move out. You got to go to the next house that challenges that fourth house. Begins to make you ask questions. At least the life experiences are red flagging you, red flagging you to start being conscious, to ask questions, to be aware about how your fourth house has impacted you. Let's see how. The other house that is a challenge, a moment where to get enlightened, wake up, it's the seventh house. The seventh house is the house of Libra, ruled by Venus. It is opposite the first house. So now we're starting to talk about you versus another. It was all right. Whoever you are, good or bad, was okay. As long as you stayed in the comfort of your own environment. You could be that person without any questions or any challenges or debates. But soon as you have to look in the mirror of another, something's going to happen. Here we go. Here we go. And this is where y'all really got to take notes. What does the seventh house mean? The seventh house is the house of partnerships, entering connections with others, intimate one-to-one contracts, intimate one-to-one connections, entering contracts with others. So let's talk about those others. Those others have different fourth houses from you. Are they the happy-go-lucky, or are they dysfunctional? If they are happy-go-lucky, we start looking at the next house, the ninth house. What is their doctrine or philosophy that led them to this healthy state versus yours? On the other side, I lost the other side. Just ride the wave with me. Well, as we talk about the contracts, is the other party to the contract dysfunctional? You know? Possibly like the individual we're talking about. But what is the source of their dysfunction? You know, it might not be the same source. It's in the fourth house, but it may be example of different things that cause a dysfunction within the fourth house. It could be the absence of a parent. It could be jealousy running through the home or family. It could be molestation or rape. Those kind of things could cause a dysfunction within the family. So the whole thing is even dysfunction. The source of dysfunction can vary. Even the source of happiness can vary. And therefore, it changes the dynamic from family to family. I hope I made that sound right. You know I got to add that in. I hope I made that sound right. Anyway, now we're going to the ninth house. Because the ninth house talks about those varying differences, the philosophies, the beliefs of the individuals within the family, the people. And let's talk about that happy-go-lucky family, that individual that came from a very positive, natured family that was very loving and supportive, yada, yada. Let's say, hypothetically, that family was governed by a particular religious doctrine. I ain't gonna name no religion. I ain't trying to make nobody mad. It don't even matter. But that doctrine taught them, the family members, the mom, the dad, the grandparents, how to love each other, how to take care of each other, how to support each other. And then maybe another doctrine they were involved in taught them they work ethic and they worked their butts off. What they call it, ate and prayed, lived, loved, ate and prayed in a way that allotted or brought into existence emotional security and stability for generation after generation. But let's remember, we're talking about that philosophy. They're orthodox. You know, it's been generation after generation. They haven't changed. They abide by that law. Where on the other side, The dysfunctional family may even have they have their philosophies and beliefs based on whatever was the governing authority that taught them to understand life, and from what perspective to understand life. Now, here's the challenge, because we're talking about the challenge and how it challenges an individual. The fourth house, the emotional state of an individual, is challenged when it comes to the seventh house of the other, and entering contracts and having to cooperate and collaborate. And now we're going to add in the 11th house. Is another house where a difficulty exists. What does the 11th house represent? It represents your friends and their friends, and even further their friends. It is your large social network, and large social network building capabilities with the intent of gaining something through those connections. Now, this orthodox, happy-go-lucky individual is going out into the world, and they're meeting their friends, and their friends that don't have the same philosophical beliefs. Our happy-go-lucky individual comes from an orthodox background. They believe something is ingrained in them. Then they meet somebody else that has an opposing ideology, or just a different belief system. That's a challenge. Because remember, the thing is to interact with these others, to have exchanges with these others, so that you can ultimately gain something. Something. More connections, more work opportunities, money, resources, love, whatever. But you're meeting these people that are showing you new ways, different ways. And now, let's go back to the first houses here. You may begin to question yourself. Herein lies the challenge. Was my family right? Or weren't they? You know, this family or these people are just successful, or even more successful than we've been. Then, on the other side, our individual that comes from a dysfunctional family that has been manipulative, hurtful, emotionally demanding. That person too goes out into the world to have these social interactions, to exchange information, to gain understanding about where they can go in order to gain something. And they meet people with opposing philosophies or doctrines, beliefs. One belief is that you don't have to stay stuck in that way of thinking. That's a challenge for that person, because it's so ingrained into them. So we go back to their first house of their identity. Really? This person mean to tell me I ain't got to act like this, or that I am actually acting like this. It could be a point where a person learns that they're acting a certain way. They embody a certain deficiency or spirit or prejudice, and their interactions bring that to light. Hmm. Mm. So it really becomes a question of, who am I? You know, who am I? That's the challenge. First house. Now, let's see what else I haven't gone over. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When, hypothetically, when that happy-go-lucky person meets that person that's not so happy, dysfunctional person, they can be suspicious of each other. Yeah. And why is that? Well, number one, they have two different backgrounds that develop their overall emotional state. They don't understand each other. And so they'll be very suspicious of each other. Let's see. What else? Oh, maybe I got to read this. I'm going to just read it. I don't know if I'm going to recap on what I just said, but we're going to see. Saying that, I just said that in this example, that a stable individual will reflect their stability, where an unstable individual will reflect their instability in some way. A way that may not be obvious to themselves. You may not be obvious. A person might not be obvious that they are displaying their instability or stability to another, but has been or will be perceived by the other, the outside person looking in. Okay. Let's see what else I said. Let's talk about another difference that exists between that stable individual and that person that is unstable, either or, based on their fourth house, their current emotional state, their overall emotional state that has now affected their psychological state. And it talks about how a stable individual is more likely to be able to enter in contracts or to create long-term bonds and to cooperate with others more easily. And why is that? Remember, this person might have the capacity to be a little bit more compassionate and patient and understanding, not only for themselves but for others. Another thing is that a person that knows thyself, they are aligned with their emotional state. It's positive that they can more easily state the terms and conditions of the contract in building the contract they're creating with another. They can say, I can fulfill this, I can do that, and this is what I'm expecting. Where on the other end, if an individual is emotionally unstable, they don't know themselves. Why? Because it's just too erratic, it's too traumatic. Maybe this might be a little more difficult for an individual to enter into long-term bonds, and to enter into contracts with others. And why is that? Because will they know how to state what they actually want, the terms? And are they able to decipher, determine, and to share what they anticipate on getting in return? It takes a level of stability in order to execute an effective contract. When I say contract, I hope you understand I'm talking about relationships, friendships, work opportunities, etc., etc. Fill in the blank. This is interactive. Oh, what a long video. Well, we're about to close it up by dealing with the opposite house of the fourth house, and that's the 10th house. Now, this is a place of tug of war. Remember, your fourth house represents your emotional state. How you really feel deep inside. Really, really feel. What's on the other side of that rope is the public's view of you. How they see you. What you're known for doing. It is you wanting to build, create, or manifest your career and ambition. You wanting to enhance your reputation or status. That's on that side. On this side is your emotional state. They're pulling back and forth with each other. There's a question that exists. Is your current emotional, this is something you have to be aware of. What is your current emotional state? What is the status or the quality of your fourth house? And how has the status of your fourth house, the quality of it, affected you on a deep emotional level to its point into your psychological state that dictates basically if you can concentrate or not? Well, based on based on your psychological state, you will manifest certain things in your life. That's all you over here on this side of the road. And on the other side is how people see you. You know, what you do, what you're capable of doing, your career, your ambition, your reputation, status. Let's just focus on your reputation, your current status. The question is, are you being seen or perceived the way you want to be perceived, by those others? When you go in for a job, when you have relationships, when you make connections, when you out socializing, are you being perceived the way you really want to be perceived? Some people believe that they are being perceived in the light that they present to the world, but sometimes they are not. You know what I'm saying? And so it's coming to this realization and this consciousness about who you really are. And if there is any question, if there's any concern about your reputation or your status, look to your fourth house. Look to correct your first house, to heal your fourth house. That work is what they mean when they talk about the shadow work. Thank you for coming to Can Angels Fly. Until next time. Bye.